Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day after the rains. Of course, we've had no power and we've had no internet. So I don't know when you'll see this, but probably late this evening. The advantage of all the means by which the airwaves can be filled with information allowed me to hear the equivalent of a radio version of the hearings today, which basically take us to the upper reaches of the Department of Justice after Barr ran out the door when Trump was asking him to lie implicitly or expressly that there was fraud in the election, but that his mouthpiece couldn't find it. You know, the rats leave the sinking ship, and I think Mr. Barr decided that was enough. I'm leaving. I don't want to be among those who need to get a pardon as I go out the door. Although I would think there are some things he's done that would put him in that trick bag, including going back to the Mueller investigation and kind of the fast, sharp practices that he did there and then things he did over the years. But he's gone. And so who substituted? Well, we had an acting Attorney General, Jeff Rosen, and you probably all know this, so I'll keep it short. And we had Jeff Clark, and he was an Assistant Attorney General, had no criminal background, and has been taunted for that fact. But he was an easy, you fill in the word, for Trump if he was going to encourage and agree to send a letter to the various states, including Georgia, basically saying there was fraud. You have to reconsider who your electors are. Consider alternate electors. In other words, he was following on the coup memo that we've seen. And this is the real problem. Eastman is everywhere, and he would be the greatest cooperating witness because he's been everywhere if they get to that point. But let's start with the good news. The Justice Department today, in the early morning hours, went to Mr. Clark's home, and at the early hour of probably 6 a.m., supposedly it's not supposed to occur in the dark, and they put him outside in his PJs while they searched his home and took his electronic materials and things like that. This would suggest that after all the prodding and complaining and moving and pushing, that maybe, just maybe, the Justice Department is onto something. And as Trump is an integral element of this, meeting with people, with witnesses who will be able to talk, including those who did today, Donahue, and who was the assistant to the acting Attorney General, Jeff Rosen. So what we have is we have two witnesses who put Trump, in the soup, and we have information that goes around. And here's the other thing. It appears that a congressman was either solicited by Trump or himself to have a meeting unbeknownst to the acting Attorney General. And some would say that this guy, Clark, was duped, but it appears to me that Clark knew exactly what he was doing. And it suggested that Eastman went over this draft letter that Clark proposed the Justice Department write and send and sign to other places, Georgia, basically saying, stop the music. And the acting Attorney General wouldn't do it. And Donahue said the guy wasn't competent to be Attorney General because his deal was, I'll send this letter. Just make me the acting Attorney General instead of that guy, Jeff Rosen. And Trump called them to the White House, and they were there, and he was prepared to do it. But he was told that not only would the people in the room resign, sort of a Saturday Night Massacre, like happened in Watergate, but that others not present would as well. And so that backed off Trump. So Trump was in this very difficult situation. And then what happens afterwards? Well, all sorts of people ask for pardons. And it is fair to say with a pardon, since you have to specifically, implicitly, and otherwise admit to misconduct for which you're being pardoned. And some are saying, well, I just wanted to be safe. Well, safe from what? Safe from a criminal prosecution. So I think that we're in a very difficult place for Trump and his corrupt allies. And so that's a very good place from my perspective of what we need to do to have an accounting for those people who have violated our law and the Constitution. Now, I'm hopeful that somebody in justice has been awakened, even our errant Attorney General, who thought to go to Ukraine to talk about war crimes instead of dealing with the kinds of crime we have right here in which there are efforts to overthrow the government. Duh. So, it was a good hearing. It was a good way to finish this series of hearings in June, and now we're on to next month when there'll be other hearings. Let's hope that we see more actions that are public by the Justice Department that lead us to think there is a possibility that we're going to do the right thing. I am too heart-fallen to be talking about the Supreme Court opinion making even stronger the notion of the right to a gun. It defies all history, but it does fit a Supreme Court that is political, not legal, not judicial, and that it's owned by the deals it made to get there, even though Thomas has been there a long time, who wrote this 6-3 decision. But there can be no worse offense, it seems to me, than for the federal government to be telling New York and its police powers that it may not regulate guns in such a way to keep the people safe, particularly in such a densely occupied, populated place as New York City. That's why we have to win this next election. This is no joke. We made the first step, we got rid of Trump. Now we have to make the second step. And the midterms are the first opportunity we have to do that. Every person who crawled over glass before to throw that bastard out of office, we have to do it again to defeat every one of these lying would-be elected representatives who insist that Trump won the election, but it was stolen from him. This could make us the laughing stock of all history. I suppose that doesn't matter to some people. All they want to do is win. But what America was before Trump and what it is now is an embarrassment. We have failed to protect our own house and to keep it in order, and that has to end. So, I'm glad to be out here, even without electricity or the internet, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.